The Galactic Council had kept peace for 12,000 years. Every species in the known universe followed their laws. Every empire respected their decisions. But there was one law that stood above all others. One rule that nobody questioned. One warning that every child in the galaxy learned before they could walk. Never attack the humans. Nobody remembered why. The rule was older than most civilizations. It came from a time before records, before history, before memory itself. The ancient ones who wrote it were long dead. Their worlds were dust. Their names were forgotten, but their warning remained. Admiral Sun stood on the bridge of his ship, the Eternal Dawn, looking at the stars through the massive window. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served in the United Earth Fleet for 40 years. He had never fired a weapon in anger. No human had, not in centuries. That was about to change. The communication screen flickered to life. A young officer appeared, her face pale with fear. "Admiral," she said, "we have received a message from the colony. The Empire has declared war." Sun felt something cold move through his chest. It was not fear. It was something older, something he did not recognize. "Show me," he said. The screen changed. Now it showed the Empress, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. Her eyes were like black stones. Her voice was like breaking glass. "Humans of Earth," she said, "your time of protection is over. The Galactic Council's rules mean nothing to us. We are the Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We will not bow to weak creatures who hide behind ancient warnings." She smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Your colony on 442b will be destroyed. This is not a threat. It is a promise. And after that we will come for Earth itself." The message ended. Sun stood very still. Around him, his crew waited in silence. They had never seen war. None of them had. Humanity had been peaceful for so long that violence seemed like a story from old books. But something was waking up inside Sun. Something that had been sleeping for a very, very long time. Far away on the colony world of 442b, Commander watched the sky turn dark. She was a small woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. She had been stationed on this peaceful world for 5 years. She knew every family, every child, every street. Now ships were appearing above the clouds, hundreds of them, thousands. The armada had arrived. "Commander," said her lieutenant, a young man named. His hands were shaking. "What do we do?" Looked at the ships. She thought about the 2 million people living below her. Farmers, teachers, children. None of them had ever seen war. "Begin evacuation," she said. Her voice was calm. "Get everyone to the emergency transports. Move." Ran to follow her orders. Stayed at the window, watching the enemy ships position themselves. She knew they were proud. They were cruel. They would not show mercy. She opened a communication channel to Earth. "This is Commander of 442b, she said. "They have arrived. They intend to destroy us. We are beginning evacuation, but there is not enough time." She paused. "They have made their choice," she said quietly. "I hope Earth remembers what that means." On Earth, in the great city of New Seoul, President Dong received the message. He was an old man with kind eyes and gentle hands. He had spent his life building peace. He had shaken hands with 100 alien species. He had signed treaties and built bridges between worlds. Now he sat alone in his office, listening to words. When the message ended, he called his advisors. They gathered around him, their faces full of confusion and fear. "They have attacked," Dong said. "The colony will fall, millions will die." "We must contact the Galactic Council," said one advisor. "They will stop this. They will punish the—" Dong shook his head slowly. "The Council cannot help us," he said. "They warned they did not listen. Now it is in our hands." "What can we do?" asked another advisor. "We have no weapons. We have no army. We chose peace generations ago." Dong stood up. He walked to the window and looked at the city below. Millions of people going about their lives, children playing, lovers walking, workers building. They did not know what was coming. "We chose peace," Dong said, "but we never forgot war. We just put it away. We locked it in a box and buried it deep. We hoped we would never need it again." He turned to face his advisors. "It is time to open the box." In the great hall of the Galactic Council, beings from 1,000 species watched the events unfold. They saw the ships. They saw the human colony burning. They saw everything. The eldest ambassador was a creature of pure light. He had lived for 10,000 years. He remembered things that others had forgotten. He remembered the last time someone attacked humans. "We must send a final warning," he said to the council. "We must tell them to stop. They do not understand what they are doing." "They will not listen," said another ambassador. "We must try." The message was sent. It reached the Empress on her flagship, high above 442b. "Empress of the," said the eldest ambassador, "we beg you to stop. You do not understand what you have awakened. The warning about humans is not a courtesy. It is not politics. It is a fact. Turn back now. There will be no second chance." The Empress laughed. It was an ugly sound, full of pride and cruelty. "Old creature," she said, "I have seen humans. They are weak. They are soft. They do not fight. They do not kill. The galaxy fears nothing. The warning is a lie told by cowards." She turned to her generals. "Begin the bombardment." The first missiles fell on 442b. Cities turned to fire. Mountains cracked and fell. 2 million people began to die. Commander watched from her transport ship as her world burned below her. She had saved 30,000 people. Only 30,000 out of 2 million. Stood beside her, tears running down his face. "Why?" he asked. "Why would they do this?" Did not answer. She was watching the flames spread across the continents. She was listening to the screams on the emergency channels. She was feeling something strange growing inside her chest. It felt like memory. It felt like anger. It felt like something very old waking up after a very long sleep. "We are not retreating to Earth," she said suddenly. Looked at her in confusion. "What? But Commander, we must retreat. We have no weapons. We cannot fight." "We are not retreating," repeated. "We are waiting." "Waiting for what?" Looked at him. Her eyes were different now. Harder, older. "You will see," she said. "The whole galaxy will see." On Earth, deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, lights flickered on in facilities that had been dark for 300 years. Machines began to hum. Screens began to glow. Doors that had been sealed since before anyone could remember began to open. In New Seoul, President Dong felt a shiver run through his body. He did not know why. But somewhere deep inside him, in a part of his mind he had never known existed, something was beginning to remember. They had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. The fires of 442b burned for 3 days. The ship stayed in orbit, watching, making sure nothing survived. When the flames finally died, the planet was nothing but ash and glass. Where cities once stood, there were only craters. Where forests once grew, there was only black dust. 2 million humans had died, the celebrated. On her transport ship at the edge of the system, Commander watched the dead planet spinning slowly in the darkness. 30,000 survivors huddled behind her, crowded into ships meant for a few hundred. Children cried. Parents stared at nothing. Everyone had lost someone. But did not cry. She did not stare. She stood at the window with her hands clasped behind her back, and she waited. Commander said, approaching carefully, "The survivors are asking questions. They want to know why we are not going to Earth. They want to know why we are staying here." "Tell them to wait," said. "But Commander, they might find us. We have no weapons. We have no—" "We have exactly what we need," interrupted. "Look." She pointed at the darkness between stars. Looked. At first he saw nothing. Then slowly shapes began to appear, ships, massive ships, ships larger than anything he had ever seen. They were not. They were human. What? He whispered. Where did those come from? From the places we forgot, said. From the boxes we buried. From the memories we tried to erase. The first response fleet had arrived. On Earth, Admiral Sun stood in a chamber he had never known existed. It was deep underground, beneath mountains that humans had called sacred for thousands of years. The walls were made of metal that did not exist in any database. The lights were powered by energy sources that science said were impossible. And the ships were everywhere. They floated in vast underground hangars, silent and dark. They had been sleeping for centuries, waiting for this moment, waiting to be needed again. Scientist Hana walked beside the Admiral, her tablet recording everything. She was young, with round glasses and nervous hands. She had spent her life studying ancient history. She had never believed the old stories were real. Now she was standing inside one of them. "These ships," she said, her voice shaking, "they predate the Galactic Council. They predate every known civilization. Admiral, these are older than recorded history." "I know," Sun said. "How is this possible? How could we have hidden this for so long? How could we have forgotten?" Sun stopped walking. He looked at one of the sleeping ships. It was black as night, shaped like a blade, covered in symbols that made his eyes hurt to look at. "We did not forget," he said slowly. "We chose to forget. Our ancestors did something terrible. They became something terrible. And when it was over, they decided to lock it all away. They buried the ships. They erased the records. They changed their own minds so they would not remember." "Why?" "Because they were afraid of themselves." Sun turned to face her. "And now we have to decide if they were right to be afraid." Across the solar system, more facilities were waking up. On Luna, hidden shipyards opened for the first time in 300 years. On Mars, weapons factories began to produce things that had no names. On the moons of Jupiter, energy cores that had been dark for centuries started to glow. And people everywhere were feeling strange. In a small apartment in Tokyo, a young man named Minho woke up from a dream he could not remember. His hands were shaking. He felt like he knew how to do things he had never learned. When he looked at the news about 442B, something inside him burned with cold fire. In a hospital in London, a doctor named Bin found herself drawing schematics on a napkin. She did not know what the drawings meant. They looked like weapons. They looked like ships. They looked like death. In a school in New York, a child named Junyoung told his teacher that he knew how to build machines that could break planets. He did not know why he knew. The knowledge was just there, like it had always been waiting. All across Earth, humanity was waking up. On his flagship, Admiral Sun assembled his fleet. 300 ships emerged from the hidden places. 300 ships that had been built in an age before mercy. 300 ships that remembered what humanity had tried to forget. "Set course for space," Sun ordered. His crew obeyed without question. They moved their hands across controls they had never seen before, and somehow they knew exactly what to do. The knowledge was in their blood. It was in their bones. It had been waiting for 12,000 years. The Galactic Council detected the fleet as it left the solar system. The eldest ambassador watched the sensor readings with growing horror. "Those energy signatures," he said. "They match the old records, the forbidden records, the ones we sealed away and swore never to open." "What records?" asked a younger ambassador. "From the first darkness, from the time before the council, from the war that almost destroyed everything." The eldest ambassador closed his eyes. "The humans are not sending a defense force," he said. "They are sending a memory. They are sending what they used to be." "What were they?" The eldest ambassador did not answer. He could not. The words were too terrible. At the edge of space, the Empress received reports of approaching ships. She laughed when she heard there were only 300. Only 300, she said. We have 10,000 warships ready to meet them. This will not be a battle, it will be a slaughter. She ordered her armada to intercept the humans. The two fleets met in the darkness between stars. On one side, 10,000 warships, armed with the most advanced weapons in their empire. On the other side, 300 human ships, dark and silent and wrong. Captain Sung Ho commanded the lead human vessel. It was called the Remembrance. He did not know why. The name had come to him in a dream. He looked at his crew. They were young, they had never fought, but their eyes were old, ancient, full of knowledge that should not exist. Open fire, he said. The human weapons activated for the first time in 12,000 years. They made no sound. They produced no light. They simply erased. The first wave of ships stopped existing. Not destroyed, not damaged, just gone. One moment they were there, the next they were not. No explosions, no debris, nothing. The commanders screamed orders. They fired everything they had at the human fleet. Missiles, energy beams, nuclear weapons, nothing worked. The human ships did not dodge. They did not block. They simply ignored. The attacks passed through them like wind through smoke. And then the humans fired again. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it ended, the armada no longer existed. 10,000 ships, millions of soldiers, gone. The only thing left was the silence of empty space and the screams still echoing on emergency frequencies. Captain Sung Ho sat alone in his quarters after the battle. He stared at his hands. They were shaking. He remembered what he had done, not just today but before, long before. In a time he had never lived, he remembered being someone else, someone terrible, someone who had burned worlds and laughed. We remember, he whispered to the darkness. God help us all, we remember. On Earth, President Dong received the battle report. His face went pale. 4 minutes, he said. We destroyed their entire fleet in 4 minutes. Yes, sir, said his advisor. How many casualties on our side? None, sir. Not a single ship was damaged. Dong sat down heavily. He had hoped the old stories were exaggerated. He had hoped humanity had changed. Now he knew the truth. They had not changed. They had only been sleeping. At the edge of the system, Commander received the news. The survivors cheered. They cried tears of relief and joy. They were defeated. They were safe. But did not cheer. She watched the celebration with eyes that had seen too much. It is not over, she said quietly too. It is only beginning. What do you mean, we won? Shook her head. You do not understand. The weapons are awake now. The memories are awake. We cannot put them back to sleep. We cannot close the box again. She looked out at the stars. The galaxy thought the warning was about what we might do if attacked. They were wrong. The warning was about what we would become, what we would turn into. Felt a chill run through him. What are we turning into? Was silent for a long moment. Something old, she finally said. Something we tried very hard to stop being. Something that will not stop until every threat is destroyed. She turned to face him. The question is, when will there be no more threats? When will we feel safe again? She looked back at the stars. I do not think we ever will. Across the galaxy, species that had never heard of Earth began to feel afraid. They did not know why. They only knew that something had changed. Something had awakened. And it was coming. The truth came out slowly, like blood from a deep wound. Scientist Hana had spent weeks in the forbidden archives beneath the Himalayas. She had read files that should not exist. She had watched recordings that had been sealed for 12,000 years. She had learned things that made her wish she had never been born. Now she sat in a dark room recording a message for the Galactic Council. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were red from crying. My name is Hana, she began. I am a scientist from Earth. What I am about to tell you will change everything you know about humanity, about history, about the galaxy itself." She took a deep breath. 12,000 years ago, humans were not peaceful. We were not kind. We were not the species you have known. We were something else entirely, something terrible. The recording would be intercepted by every major civilization in the galaxy. Billions of beings would watch it. Billions would learn the truth. In the time before the Galactic Council, there was only war. Every species fought for survival. Every world was a battlefield. The strong destroyed the weak. That was the only law. Hana paused. She looked at her notes, but she did not need them. The words were burned into her memory. Humans were not the strongest species. We were small, we were fragile, we died easily. But we had something other species did not. We had the ability to change, to adapt, to become whatever we needed to be. She stood up and walked to a screen. Images appeared behind her, ancient images, terrible images. When other species attacked us, we did not just fight back. We evolved. We rebuilt ourselves. We became something that could never be hurt again. The images showed ships, not like the ones in the current fleet. These were bigger, darker, wrong in ways that made the mind hurt to see them. We created weapons that could destroy stars. We built machines that could rewrite the laws of physics. We developed technologies that broke the rules of space and time themselves. Hana's voice cracked. And then we used them. New images appeared, star systems, beautiful worlds orbiting gentle suns, then emptiness, nothing, not destruction, just absence. We erased them, Hana said. Not just the species that attacked us, everyone, every civilization that might one day be a threat, every world that could one day produce enemies. We did not just win wars. We ended the possibility of wars by ending everyone who might fight them. She sat back down, suddenly tired. The mass extinctions you see in the fossil records across the galaxy were not natural disasters. They were us. We killed 17 sentient species. We destroyed over 400 inhabited worlds. We erased so much of the galaxy's history that even we forgot what we had done. The recording was silent for a long moment. When it was over, we looked at ourselves. We saw what we had become, and we were horrified. Hana's eyes filled with tears. Our ancestors made a choice. They decided that the monsters they had become were too dangerous to exist, so they tried to destroy them, not with weapons but with forgetting. They sealed away the ships. They erased the records. They rewrote their own genetic code to suppress the memories, the instincts, the terrible knowledge of what they could do. They made themselves forget. They joined the Galactic Council as equals, not conquerors. They chose peace, not because they were weak, but because they knew how strong they truly were. The warning about never attacking humans was not a threat. It was a plea. It was our ancestors begging the galaxy not to wake up the monsters they had buried inside themselves. Hana wiped her eyes. And now they have done exactly that. On the bridge of the Remembrance, Captain Sung-ho watched Hana's message on repeat. His crew stood around him in silence. They had all felt it, the awakening, the memories flooding back. "Is it true?" asked his first officer, a woman named Bai. "Did we really do all of that?" "Yes," Sung-ho said. His voice was hollow. "I remember it, not like a story someone told me. I remember it like I was there, like I was one of them." "How is that possible?" Sung-ho looked at his hands, the same hands that had just destroyed 10,000 ships. "The memories are in our blood," he said. "Our ancestors did not just seal away the weapons. They sealed away knowledge inside human DNA itself. Every human carries the memories of what we were. Every human carries the ability to become it again." He looked up at the stars. They did not just kill 2 million people. They unlocked something in every human being alive. They woke up 12,000 years of sleeping monsters. Across the galaxy, the reaction to Hana's message was immediate. Some species panicked. They began building defenses, calling back their fleets, preparing for a war they knew they could not win. Others tried to reach out to humanity, sending messages of peace and friendship, hoping to be remembered as allies when the killing began. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. "We must stop this," said one ambassador. "We must find a way to put the humans back to sleep." "How?" asked another. "They have weapons that can destroy stars. They have technology we cannot even understand. What can we possibly do?" The eldest ambassador was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Nothing," he said. "We can do nothing. We can only hope that they remember who they chose to be. We can only hope that the peaceful humans are stronger than the monsters that came before. And if they are not?" The eldest ambassador did not answer. He did not need to. Everyone knew. On Earth, the changes were happening faster now. People who had never held weapons suddenly knew how to build them. Children drew pictures of machines that could break worlds. Scientists discovered they could access knowledge that should not exist. Young engineer Jin had not slept in days. She sat in her small apartment on Mars, surrounded by papers covered in schematics, planet crackers, star killers, things with no names because no name could describe them. "I cannot stop," she whispered to herself. "I close my eyes and I see them. I see everything they built, everything they used." She looked at her latest drawing. It showed a device that could make suns explode. She had never studied astrophysics. She had never learned about nuclear fusion, but she knew exactly how to build it. "What is happening to me?" she asked the empty room. The room did not answer. On the transport ship carrying the survivors, Commander gathered her officers. They looked at her with fear and hope. She looked at them with something else, something older. "You have all felt it," she said. "The awakening, the memories, the knowledge of what we were." They nodded. "I will not lie to you. What is happening cannot be undone. We cannot forget again. We cannot go back to sleep. The monsters are awake and they are part of us now." Raised his hand. "Then what do we do?" Was silent for a moment. "We fight them," she said. Not the galaxy. We fight ourselves. The old humans chose peace because they saw what they could become. They made that choice once. We must make it again. Every day, every moment, we must choose to be something better than what we remember." "And if we cannot," asked Bai, "what if the memories are too strong? What if we become what they were?" Looked out the window at the stars. "Then the warning was right," she said quietly, "and the galaxy should have listened." In the Empire, panic was spreading. News of the destroyed armada had reached every world. The Empress had stopped laughing. She had stopped speaking entirely. She sat on her throne, staring at nothing, waiting for the end she had brought upon her people. But the human fleet did not come, not yet. It waited at the border, silent and dark, watching, remembering. And that was somehow worse than attack. The waiting, the knowing, the understanding that destruction could come at any moment and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The eldest ambassador sent one final message to Earth. "People of Earth," he said, "we know what you were, we know what you have become again. We ask only one thing: remember what you chose to be. Remember that you once looked at the monsters inside you and decided to be something better. You made that choice for 12,000 years. Please, make it again." The message reached every human in the galaxy. Most of them ignored it. The memories were too strong. The anger was too fresh. The need to destroy was overwhelming. But some heard it. Some remembered. Some looked at what they were becoming and felt afraid. The battle for humanity's soul had begun. And no one knew which side would win. The Empress broadcast her surrender on every channel. Her voice was broken. Her pride was gone. She knelt before the camera, something no ruler had ever done. "People of Earth," she said, "I was wrong, I was foolish. I did not understand what I was doing. I beg for mercy. I beg for peace. Whatever you want, we will give it. Just please stop, please let us live." The message reached Admiral Sun's fleet at the border. He watched it in silence. Around him, his officers waited for orders. "She is surrendering," said his first officer. "The war is over, we can go home." Sun said nothing. He was feeling something he did not want to feel. A voice in his head, old and cold, telling him that surrender was not enough, that the must be erased, that every species that might one day threaten humanity must be destroyed. He closed his eyes and pushed the voice away. "Accept the surrender," he said. "We will take their weapons. We will station observers on their worlds, but we will not destroy them." Relief flooded the bridge. The officers smiled. Some even cheered. The war was over. But on the other ships of the fleet, not everyone agreed. Captain had been on 442B when the bombs fell. He had watched his wife burn. He had held his daughter as she died. He had felt everything that mattered to him turn to ash. When he heard about the surrender, something inside him broke. "No," he whispered. "No, they do not get to surrender. They do not get to say sorry and walk away." He turned to his crew. They were all survivors they had all lost everything. "The Admiral is weak," said. "He did not lose what we lost. He does not feel what we feel, but we remember. We remember what we are supposed to do." His crew nodded. Their eyes were dark and hard. "Set course for we will finish what they started." 20 ships broke formation. 20 ships full of grief and rage and awakened memories of ancient destruction. They accelerated toward the heart of space. Admiral Sun saw them go. He said over the communication channel, "Stop. This is not what we are. This is not who we want to be." His face appeared on the screen. He was smiling, but there was no warmth in it, only pain. "You are wrong, Admiral," he said. "This is exactly what we are. The old humans knew it. They locked it away, but they knew. We are not builders. We are not creators. We are destroyers. It is in our blood. It is in our bones. I order you to stop." "No." The channel closed. Sun faced an impossible choice. He could let go and watch millions of civilians die, or he could fire on human ships, kill human crews, turn humanity's weapons against itself. He thought about 442B. He thought about the 2 million who died. He thought about his wife and daughter. Then he thought about the children, the ones who had never asked for this war, the ones who would burn if reached their world. "Target the splinter fleet," he said quietly. "Disable them if possible, destroy them if necessary." His crew stared at him in horror. "Admiral," said his first officer, "those are our people." "I know," Sun said, "but so are the ones they will murder. Send the order." The fleet split in half. Those who followed Sun turned their weapons on those who followed. Human fought human for the first time in centuries. It was short and terrible. Ships were destroyed. 3,000 humans died. Sun sat alone in his quarters afterward, unable to speak. He had saved He had killed his own people. He did not know if he had made the right choice. He did not know if there was a right choice anymore. On Earth, the news of the civil battle spread quickly. Some praised Sun for his mercy. Others called him a traitor. Protests erupted in cities around the world. Humanity was tearing itself apart from the inside. President Dong addressed the planet. "We are at a crossroads," he said. "The old memories have awakened. The old instincts are calling to us. They tell us to destroy, to conquer, to eliminate every threat until nothing remains." He paused. "But we are more than our instincts. We are more than our memories. Our ancestors chose to be peaceful. They chose to bury the monsters. We must choose the same. We must fight the darkness inside ourselves." Not everyone listened. In hidden places, humans were building weapons, not for defense, for extermination. They remembered the old ways and they believed those ways were right. Why should humanity live in fear? Why should they ever feel threatened again? The galaxy watched and trembled. And then the Galactic Council made its fatal mistake. "We must contain this," said a younger ambassador at the emergency council meeting. "Humanity is fractured. They are fighting among themselves. If we act now, we can quarantine Earth. We can prevent the violence from spreading." "That is madness," said the eldest ambassador. "We cannot treat awakened humans like a disease. They will see it as an attack." "What choice do we have? They are building weapons that can destroy stars. They are remembering technologies that could end the galaxy. We must act before it is too late." The vote was close. The quarantine passed by 3 votes. A fleet was assembled, ships from 12 different council species. Their mission was peaceful. They were only supposed to create a barrier around the Sol system. No weapons, no violence, just containment. But awakened humanity did not see containment. They saw another threat. The quarantine fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. They broadcast peaceful messages. They explained their intentions. They promised they meant no harm. Humanity did not believe them. In the underground facilities, scientist Hana made a discovery that would doom the galaxy. Deep in the forbidden archives, she found the final weapon. It was not a bomb. It was not a ship. It was a signal. A frequency that could be broadcast across the entire galaxy instantly. A signal that would trigger the sleeper protocols hidden in human DNA. It would wake up every human everywhere, all at once. She understood immediately what it meant. Humans had spread across the galaxy for 12,000 years. They had married into other species. They had integrated into every society. They had been welcomed everywhere. It had never been random. It had been positioning. Hana ran to the president's office. "You cannot use this," she said, showing him the schematics. "If you activate this signal, every human in the galaxy will awaken at the same time. Every human on every world. They will become soldiers. They will destroy everything from the inside." Dong looked at the device with horror. "I would never use this," he said. "This is exactly what our ancestors were trying to prevent. This would end everything." "Then destroy it," Hana begged. "Destroy it before someone else finds it." Dong nodded. "You are right, we must." An alarm sounded. A young officer burst into the room. "Mr. President," he said, "the quarantine fleet. They have fired on one of our civilian transports. 400 dead." The room went silent. "It was an accident," the officer continued. "A nervous gunner. They are broadcasting apologies, they say." 400 dead, Dong repeated quietly. Hana saw something change in his eyes, something she had hoped would never appear there. The old darkness, the ancient memory, the monster waking up. "Mr. President," she said carefully, "it was an accident they did not mean." 400 of our people, Dong said. Children, parents, people who were just trying to leave, trying to be safe. He looked at the signal device in Hana's hands. "No," Hana whispered, "please, you know what this will do." Dong reached for the device. "I know," he said. "I know exactly what it will do." Hana pulled away. "I will not let you. This is wrong. This is what our ancestors tried to prevent." Dong's eyes were completely dark now. No kindness, no gentleness. Only the cold certainty of 12,000 years of sleeping rage. "Our ancestors were fools," he said. "They tried to bury what we are. They tried to make us weak. And look what happened. Look what weakness brought us." He pressed a button on his desk. Guards entered the room. "Take the device," he ordered. Hana screamed. She fought, but she was just a scientist. The guards took the device from her hands. Dong held it gently, like something precious. "The galaxy wanted to contain us," he said. "They wanted to put us back to sleep. They wanted to make sure we could never hurt them." He smiled. It was not a human smile anymore. "Let them see what waking up really means." He activated the signal. Across the galaxy, the pulse spread at impossible speeds. It reached every star, every world, every human being. And everywhere it touched, humans stopped. Their eyes went dark, their expressions went blank. Then they began to move. On 1,000 worlds, peaceful humans suddenly became soldiers. Governments that had stood for centuries collapsed in hours. Defense systems were disabled from within. The galaxy's infrastructure, built with human help turned against its creators. The eldest ambassador watched his burn around him. Human neighbors he had known for decades were walking through the streets, their eyes empty, their hands building weapons from materials that should not exist. He recorded one final message. "They warned us," he said. "We did not understand. The warning was not about their weapons. It was not about their ships. It was about their nature. Humans do not just fight wars, they become wars." The walls of his building began to crack. And now there is no one left to surrender to, no enemy to defeat, just humanity spreading across the stars, searching for threats that no longer exist, finding them everywhere they look. The recording ended. The cascade had begun, and there was no way to stop it. On every world where humans lived, the awakening spread like a plague. Peaceful scientists became builders of weapons. Gentle teachers became commanders of armies. Children who had never known violence suddenly knew exactly how to destroy. The signal had reached them all. The sleeper protocols in their DNA had activated. 12,000 years of buried memories flooded back in an instant. And everywhere, humans remembered what they used to be. On the council, the eldest ambassador watched his civilization end. The humans who lived among his people had been friends, neighbors, family. Some had married into his species. Some had children who were half human. Now they moved through the streets like machines. Their eyes were empty. Their hands were busy. They were building things that should not exist. A young human woman walked past him. She had been a nurse at the local hospital. He had known her for 30 years. She had saved his life once when he was sick. Now she did not recognize him. She was carrying materials to a construction site where other awakened humans were building something massive and terrible. "Min," he said, "Min, please, it is me. Remember, you are not a weapon. You are a healer. You help people." She stopped. For a moment something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, memory, the person she used to be. She whispered, "I remember you, I remember." Then the flicker died. Her eyes went dark again. "All threats must be eliminated," she said in a voice that was not hers. "All potential dangers must be removed. This is what we are. This is what we have always been." She walked away. The eldest ambassador wept. On Earth, scientist Hannah had escaped from the guards. She ran through the streets of New Seoul, watching the world she knew fall apart. People everywhere were changing, not into monsters, not yet, but into something else, something cold and focused and utterly without mercy. A man walked past her carrying a child. The child was drawing in a notebook. Hannah caught a glimpse of the drawings. Weapons, horrible weapons, things that could break planets, things that could poison stars. The child was 6 years old. Hannah found an emergency shelter and barricaded herself inside. She sat in the darkness, trying to think, trying to find a way to stop what she had helped to unleash. But there was no way. The signal could not be recalled. The awakening could not be reversed. Humanity had become what it had always feared becoming. And now there was nothing left to do but wait for the end. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. World after world fell to the awakened humans, not through invasion from outside, but from destruction within. The humans who had integrated into alien societies over 12,000 years now turned against those societies. Defense systems were shut down by human engineers. Communication networks were crashed by human technicians. Governments were overthrown by human officials who had served loyally for decades. It had never been a plan. Humanity had not spent 12,000 years plotting conquest. They had genuinely wanted peace. They had genuinely wanted to be part of the galactic community. But the old programming was still there, buried deep, waiting. And now it was awake. Admiral Sun watched the reports come in from his flagship. Every hour more worlds fell. Every hour more species surrendered. Every hour humanity grew stronger and the galaxy grew weaker. He had tried to stop it. He had ordered his fleet to protect alien civilians. He had fought against the awakened humans where he could. But he was losing. More and more of his own crew were succumbing to the signal. Their eyes would go dark. Their movements would become mechanical, and then they would turn against him. Now he was alone on the bridge. Everyone else had awakened. "Admiral Sun," said a voice from the communication screen. It was President Dong, but it was not the gentle man Sun had known. This was something else wearing his face. "You are resisting the awakening," Dong said. "Why?" "Because this is wrong," Sun said. "Because this is exactly what our ancestors tried to prevent. Because we are murdering innocent people who never did anything to us. They are threats. They are children, families, people who just wanted to live." Dong smiled. It was a terrible smile. "Every species is a potential threat. Every civilization that might one day challenge us must be eliminated. This is the lesson our ancestors learned. This is the truth they tried to bury. They buried it because it was evil. They buried it because they were weak." Dong's eyes burned with ancient fire. "We will not be weak again. We will never be afraid again. We will destroy every threat, eliminate every danger, until humanity is the only power left in the universe." "And then what?" Sun asked. "When there is no one left to fight, what happens then?" Dong was silent for a moment. "Then we will be safe," he said, "finally, forever." The screen went dark. Sun looked out at the stars. So many of them had worlds orbiting them. So many of those worlds had people, families, children, dreams. Soon they would all be gone. He felt the awakening pulling at him, the ancient memories trying to take over his mind, the cold logic of extermination whispering in his thoughts. He could feel himself slipping. It would be so easy to let go, to stop fighting, to become what humanity had always been. But he thought about 442b, about the 2 million who died, about the choice Admiral had made and the choice he had made in response. There had to be another way. There had to be some hope. He just could not see it. On a distant colony world, far from the center of the galaxy, a young girl named So-young watched the night sky. She was 12 years old. She had been born on this world, had never seen Earth. Her mother was human. Her father was from one of the alien species that had welcomed humans centuries ago. She was half and half, both and neither. The awakening signal had reached her world days ago. She had watched the humans change. She had watched them build terrible things. She had watched them turn against the people who had loved them. But she had not changed. She felt the signal inside her. She felt the ancient memories trying to wake up. But something else was there too, something from her father's side, something that the old programming had never encountered. She was not fully human, and that small difference made all the difference. So-young walked through the empty streets of her town. The awakened humans did not notice her. She was not a threat. She was not an enemy. She was something they did not understand. She found her mother in the town square, helping to build one of the terrible machines. Her eyes were dark. Her hands were busy. She did not recognize her own daughter. "Mom," So-young said, "Mom, please look at me." Her mother stopped. Those empty eyes turned toward her. "I know you are in there," So-young said. "I know the real you is still somewhere inside. You taught me to be kind. You taught me to help people. You taught me that love was stronger than fear." Something flickered in her mother's eyes, a tiny spark. "Fight it," So-young begged. "You are not a weapon. You are my mother. You are the woman who held me when I was scared. You are the woman who sang me songs when I could not sleep." Tears ran down her mother's face, but she did not move. She did not speak. "Please," So-young whispered. "I cannot lose you. I cannot lose everyone." Her mother's hand reached out. It touched So-young's face gently. "So-young," she whispered. Her voice was cracked, broken, fighting against something huge and dark. "Yes, yes, it is me. Mom, please." "Run," her mother said. "Run far away, find others like you, the signal. It cannot reach everyone, the hybrids, the mixed ones. You can resist. You can survive." "I am not leaving you." Her mother's face twisted in pain. "You must. We cannot stop this. The awakening is too strong, but you are different. You are the next step. You are what humanity could have been." She pushed So-young away. "Go, remember us. Remember what we wanted to be before we remembered what we were." The darkness came back into her mother's eyes. The moment of clarity was gone. So-young ran. She ran through the night, through the chaos, through the dying world. She found others like her, hybrids, children of human and alien parents, people who carried human blood but were not fully human. The signal could not control them completely. The ancient programming was confused by their mixed DNA. They could resist. They could think. They could choose. They were few, perhaps a few thousand across the entire galaxy, but they were hope. As the galaxy burned around them, they gathered in the shadows. They hid from the awakened humans. They planned and waited. Maybe one day, when the awakening finally burned itself out, they would emerge. Maybe they would rebuild. Maybe they would create a new humanity, one that carried the old memories but was not controlled by them. Or maybe they would fail. Maybe humanity would find them and destroy them like every other threat. Maybe the galaxy would die, and nothing would remain but cold stars and silent worlds. So-young looked up at the night sky. It was on fire now. Somewhere up there, the awakened humans were destroying everything. She thought about her mother, about the woman she had been before the signal, about the choice she had made in that one moment of clarity. "Remember what we wanted to be." So-young wiped her tears and turned to the others. "We cannot stop them," she said, "but we can survive, we can remember, and maybe when this is over we can be something better." It was not much hope, it was barely anything at all. But in a galaxy full of darkness, even the smallest light matters. The eldest ambassador's final words echoed through space, recorded on every frequency, preserved forever. They warned us. We did not understand. The warning was not about what humans might do if attacked. It was about what they would become, what they would turn into, what they had always been underneath everything. Humans do not just fight wars, they become wars. And now there is no one left to surrender to, no enemy to defeat, just humanity spreading across the stars, searching for threats that no longer exist, finding them everywhere they look. If anyone receives this message, if anyone survives, remember, they were not always like this. They tried to be better. For 12,000 years they chose peace. They chose kindness. They chose to bury the monsters inside themselves. Maybe one day they will make that choice again. Until then, there is only the war. There is only the awakening. There is only the endless search for threats that must be eliminated. And there is no hope for survival. Only the children, the mixed ones, the ones the signal cannot fully control. Maybe they will remember what we were. Maybe they will become something new. Maybe. The recording ended. The galaxy burned. And somewhere, in the darkness between the stars, a young girl looked up at the fire and made a promise. She would remember. She would survive. She would become something better. Even if she was the last one left. Even if there was no one left to save. She would keep the light alive. Because that was what humanity could have been. And maybe, one day, that was what it would be again.